Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are talking about why AMC is about to take off, how the shorts are still trapped, $180 per share, and many more in this video. First, we're taking a look at this. This is odd. Why is AMC suddenly trading much higher than usual on the main exchange and on a Friday of all days? And AMC is big in the green with very strong volume into the close. What is up? So if you take a look at this, has this ever happened before? If you take a look at the exchange data for AMC, you're going to be looking at something that, at least for me, I don't think I've ever seen this happen, or at least in the last 4 or 5 years, where the NYSE actually had more volume than the off exchange. You guys can see here 43% for NYSE and 37% for the off exchange. Now comment down below, when was the last time you've seen this? At least I don't have any recollection of this, but this is a very, very big thing. Now, we don't think this has happened before, like I said, and it gives us a big signal of what's going on. Now, the day you see that we have a bigger exchange in terms of the actual lit exchange than we do off exchange, you're seeing AMC having a 14% movement. Now, this is a very clear sign of what's going on. This is a very clear sign that the volume that's ongoing for AMC right now are buy orders, are bullish orders. And evidently we can see that because if we saw a bigger lit exchange volume, so in this case, if we saw a 43% NYSE volume and the price went red, it will mean that the majority of orders would have obviously been sell orders. But the very fact that we are seeing it going up, and in fact going up 14%, it will mean that a large proportion of the 43% are in fact buy orders. And that's the biggest takeaway, that people are constantly buying into AMC. And we can see it didn't just bounce, it printed the move in daylight. We're seeing how the off exchange dropped hard, we see how the NYSE lit volume exploded, and we are seeing where AMC is going. So bears wanted a fake bounce, bears thought the stock was going to go to bankruptcy, but obviously that is not what we are seeing. And I think it's a very important thing, and this is what we've said with how off exchange has been the reasoning why AMC has not reflected its value, because on a day we see a 43% NYSE and a lower percentage of 37% off exchange, suddenly you're seeing AMC up 14%. And this is how we know that all the volume in the past before, or the value in the past before, has been stolen by the dark pool. And now we're seeing how AMC is back on track. Strong close for the weekend after our unexpected offering, which strengthened the balance sheet. Great news from AMC can come at any moment. A $3 billion quarter is within our grasp if we continue to go to the movies. And so we have to realize where AMC is at. Firstly, this offering news was obviously unexpected, but we talked about it. We dissected it down. We mentioned it in detail for the last 3 videos. And now what we're seeing is how still people are realizing where there is for AMC. People are realizing why AMC is a good stock, why AMC is a good investment, and how strong its fundamentals are, and why we're seeing this move up. And what we have to realize is that going into the future, we're still going to be looking at how any moment there will be major news coming out for AMC that will benefit and positively affect the price of AMC. Now, what we also have to realize is that, keep in mind, there are other institutions who aren't short AMC that can buy the living heck out of the stock at these low prices. There was a 24 million buy order into close. To think they don't know about AMC becoming profitable this quarter will be truly ignorant, and they can help send the price up for us easily. And this is what has already been reflected today. When we talked about how AMC going up when the lit exchange is the biggest proportion of the day, it talks to you about how people are buying into AMC. It talks to you about how the majority of the orders for AMC are, of course, buy orders. What's also significant is that today we had 65 million in volume. And now, of course, it isn't to say the apes aren't capable of this, but we know that typically when we do see volume like this, it would mean that this is a big mix of both institutions and apes, and of course the institutions come into majority. But still, what we can gather from this then is that institutions are wanting to buy AMC shares. And so to talk about all of these articles that are saying that no one's buying, that everyone is selling, and yet we see that on the truth, when we see it on the exchange, it's the complete opposite. It's that people are in fact buying and no one really is selling, and that everyone realizes the opportunity there is. And a big thing for this, you can see AMC is green while the broader market is red. Go figure, but we know why. And now, a big important thing about this is just that today, what we obviously saw was how the market was dropping. We have the S&P down 0.05%, but we had the Nasdaq down 1.09%. And this is quite important and significant because it talks about how we have always said AMC, along with the industry is one of the biggest recession-proof industry. And that's, of course, the theater industry. Now, when you dive into the industry and you talk about, okay, we are in a recession-proof industry, what would not only be the biggest protection against the recession, but also the biggest opportunity, then once again, AMC popping out. And this is how we know that people are realizing where AMC is standing. People are realizing the catalyst that's coming out that will benefit AMC. And a lot of things right now that can easily break stocks, that can easily, wherever it's taking down kind of the memory stocks, wherever it is the photonic stocks that have been seeing a decline. All of these things right now are making and causing fear for investors, and they're looking for a safe haven. They're looking for an investment that will protect them at these times, and AMC is the one that's obviously screaming out to them, and it's why we're seeing them buy in. And the big thing about this as well is that this rise in AMC, whether it's recent, whether it's in the past few weeks, past few months, a very big thing about this is that it isn't done because short sellers are covering. Now, supposedly on the self-reported, it says that the short interest is down. But firstly, we've seen this from the fact that the synthetic short interest is still going up, meaning they're too scared to short in the open market and they're trying to rehypothecate more shares. But what we also have to realize is that despite the rise in price June 1st to 15th, the short interest did not seem effective. The price rise was not due to shorts trying to buy based on what they report themselves. And so what we're looking at for AMC right now, what we are seeing with the price going up is just purely the fact that people think AMC is extremely undervalued. People view AMC as extremely undervalued and they realize what opportunity it can yield for them. So they're buying into AMC. And I think that itself really talks to you about just how powerful we are and why it's so important to realize how more and more in capital, more and more money is flowing into AMC. And also, there is no level of volatility, 50, 200, or 400% that can entice me to let my long shares go for pennies. So first we have to realize is that going into the future, we are going to be seeing major volume. We are going to be seeing major movement. The fact if we are going to be looking at more and more of these lit market, if we're going to be looking at how the lit market is going to outweigh the dark pool, then you're going to be seeing major movements happening for AMC. But the important thing about that is, will you do kind of what the shorts want you to do? Now, as always, I've always said, you guys can do whatever you want with your shares. Everyone has different understanding. Everyone has a different floor price. But what we have to understand is that a lot of apes have obviously been here for a very long time, and they have a higher floor price than you are expecting. Now, the difference this makes is that they are the ones who have a higher floor price and who are uniting. If the majority of apes all have a higher floor price, then that will inevitably push the price of AMC even higher because we're not willing to sell to them for shares at $100, at $200. We are only willing to sell when it goes to 1,000, 2,000. Again, everyone has different price targets. Maybe yours is, you won't sell at 50, but you will sell at 200, but everyone is different. And this is why we know that we hold kind of the trump card over these short sellers. A big thing to also look at is just how well the fundamentals is doing. Firstly, when you look at the numbers as of late June 2026, we are seeing how we are already going to $2.75 billion across 247 releases. And this is, of course, very, very good. It's the strongest second quarter performance in the post-pandemic era. Now, it doesn't stop there because what we're seeing is how we have a few more days to go. We also have Toy Story 5 as well. A lot of things right now that could actually push us to an even higher price. And if we are seeing some surprises happening, we could really be looking at AMC closing on towards that target that we are seeing. But again, it won't be the end of the world if we don't reach 3 billion. The reason why I say this is because we have always known how the majority of the box office comes from Q3 and Q4. So the very fact we're already seeing how successful we are for Q1 and Q2, and when we look at how well AMC done in Q2, you can understand why Q3 and Q4 is then going to attract even more investors. And it's also a big reason for why people are trying to invest into AMC now. As we've said, Toy Story is obviously doing very well. It's already brought in over 365 million at the box office. And it's just talking about how these movies are going to continue to do well. We are still seeing more movies being released, and they are going to be banging movies. They are going to attract numbers. So the number for AMC is not going to slow down. If anything, it's only going to increase at exponential rate that we want to see. And so with everything that's ongoing recently, especially with the recent closure of all debt due before 2029, it seems the sky above AMC has been entirely cleared with the perfect line of sight all the way to the moon. And it's why we talk about AMC is really going to take off, because so many good things are happening right now. And if we're going to be seeing more leg change happening for AMC, we're going to see how it's going to go up. And you can see how in days like this, where AMC goes up 14%, suddenly all the haters are quiet. The haters who said that AMC will go below $2 and will continuously stay below $2 were instantly proved just how wrong they were. And this is what we said with apes know exactly what's going on by AMC. You gotta block out the noise. You gotta realize what's going on. This isn't to say to obviously blindly see AMC. Again, we've always said, when we look into the fundamentals, when we dissect into these things, there will be good, there will be bad. Just like what we talked about with the dilution. Dilution is typically a bad thing, but you gotta see where also the pros are. We talked about the improving of fundamentals. We talked about the saving on cost. And again, we talked about how 95 million shares ultimately isn't going to allow the short sellers who've created billions of shares to get out. And so you can't just firstly look at it blindly, but you also can't just let the noise kind of get you into a state where you think it's actually bad, because easily we've proven these guys wrong. Now, as for the technicals, as we see how well the fundamentals are, the technicals are obviously doing well as well. You can talk about whether it's approaching the golden cross. Now, we've talked about this a lot of times, and it really will be one of the biggest deciding factor in terms of sentiment, because if there are traders who are looking at these setups, then they will want to buy into AMC. It's essentially the equivalent of a fundamental incentive for why people should invest into AMC. Also, the close today was, of course, extremely strong, and it's looking like how it's going up and stomping some stop losses, and it feels like it's going to push the price up of AMC even higher. Now, amidst all of this, we're still seeing Bitcoin struggling. And what it means is that recently what we are seeing is how the last 5 days, the drop equates to $180. And so one of the things that I would look to for AMC and what to expect is the fact that we are going to see a takeoff. And how I'm going to judge how much volume, how much value is going to come into for AMC will be from the collaterals that have been used in the past. And these will be cases like Nvidia, like Bitcoin. And so the very fact we can see that from the last few recent days of market cap dropping and it goes to 180, I do have high expectations for AMC. And just like what we've seen with how Adam Aaron purchased shares at 137, it talks about how he thinks it's deeply undervalued, and it's why I strongly believe we won't be seeing AMC going towards that price again. Now, moving on to GME, we are also in a very good position where right now Grok is saying the fiscal outlook for GameStop that has just been released is highly unusual. And it feels like Ryan Cohen is about to drop something that is crazy. When we talk about where GME is going, we're up 6.14%, with the warrants up to 284, up 10.93%. So a lot of things is happening right now, and it looks like the liquidity is getting towards these short sellers. When you see AMC go up, you see GME go up. When you see GME go up, you see AMC go up. And that's because they're in the same basket. That's because the liquidity are both mutually held. And so as we see them get affected, as we see the price going up, you're going to be looking at how powerful we are going to be. And then when you talk about the overall macro news about where the institutions are, firstly, everyone's worried about the AI super bubble. Now, the reason why this is important, it isn't for me to tell you that next week the bubble will burst or whenever it is, but it's talking about how the more people who are fearing of a bubble, the more they will look for investments that will protect them. And once again, what investments are we talking about? The ones that are recession proof. What investments are recession proof? Theater industries. What stock in the theater industry is the most undervalued that could yield the greatest return? AMC. And you can see how this cycles back to AMC again. And so this is just another reason for understanding. And one of the signs that is showing for why they're worried about a bubble is how hedge funds are limiting investors' withdrawal because they're trying to prevent the financial collapse of the firm. They only will do this if they know that they are in a bad position. And when you take a look at how volatile recently the market has been, the Korean Composite Stock Price Index dropped 8% and halted at a limit down. Now, this is the second time this week that this has happened. And this is for a composite stock index. So it really just talks about how volatile the market is right now. And again, none of this is financial advice, so take what I say with a grain of salt, and I'll catch you guys next time.